Last Christmas, I got a Christmas tree, but I forgot to get all the decorations for it. This year, I realized I have an embroidery machine and I can create my own ornaments. So, in this video, I wanted to show you how you can create your own beautiful snowflake ornaments for your own Christmas trees. Let's get started. To create the snowflake, we're going to be utilizing the Design Doodler, and if you've never played around with it before, we have a trial available in the link in the description for both PC and iPad, so make sure to check it out. First thing that we're going to do is open up our image, so I'm going to click on Load Backdrop. Now I'm going to import this snowflake image right here, and it will be available in the Facebook Design Doodler group, which is also available in the link in the description. Make sure to join for a beautiful community of doodling enthusiasts. Let's grab the image by selecting the backdrop with this button right here, and I'm just going to size it down to make sure that it fits my 4x4-inch hoop. Something like that is pretty good, and if you have a different hoop size, no problem, just click on these three dots right here to the bottom right and go under settings. You can change your hoops by going under hoops. There we have a bunch. We have so many of them, so it's really up to you whatever size you want to do, but for me 4x4 is really good. Here we have our image, and the last thing that I'm going to do to it is I'm just going to go under properties by clicking these three lines on the right and then just bringing down the opacity so it's easier for us to put our stitches down. Awesome. Now the first thing that we need to do for this design is to create the outline, and instead of using a regular satin stitch, we're going to use applique. So let's go under our brush and we're going to switch to the applique tool. You can see right here it says applique, so I'm going to select it, and for now the width, what can we set it to? We can set it to maybe 4 millimeters, and the shape, instead of using the free draw, we're going to use a line tool. Now very important, you want to ensure that the snap to anchors are enabled so that we can create one whole shape without it trimming, creating tie-ins and outs, or jumping all over the place. So those are going to be our settings for the outline. Let's get started by creating this outline, and I'm going to click and drag from left to right, but let me just undo so that I can change the color and it's easier for you guys to see. I'm just going to select a pretty nice lime green so it's easy for you to see what I'm doing. Again, I'm going to go from left to right and just try and match that center right here. And if you see, I'm just going to zoom in, there's a little red dot that activates whenever I hover on the edge of the center of the applique, and that is the snap to anchors activating. So I'm just going to click and drag when that gets enabled, and then we can continue going all the way around, and this will be one whole shape. So again, I'm just going to go back to 1 to 1, and let's continue doing this whole shape. Now you can do this with a tablet. I'm just using my mouse because I'm just very comfortable using a mouse, but a pen is also really good. It's really up to you what you prefer to use. And you can see I'm just clicking and dragging and ensuring that the very next shape that I create was under that same snap to anchors, so we have one shape all together as we move along. I'm just gonna use the hand to move up here. Perfect. Let's go up here. Let's do this one right here. Let's go to the end, and from here I'm just gonna put it at the end right there. Now I'm not a big fan of the way that this looks right here, so I'm gonna go to path edit at the bottom, and I'm just going to edit this right here to make it a little bit nicer. And if you see that these two are not closing right now, no problem, just click your select tool, make sure that you select that outline, and then you want to click close shape. Now that it's closed, you can see how much nicer that looks. All right, we have the outline done, but we have some settings to do to it. So I'm going to select my outline, and under my properties, again on the right, we're gonna scroll down to where we see sew border. Now we are only gonna do the placement and the tack down, so we're going to disable the sew border. And now you can see that's the placement and that's the tack down stitch, which looks really awesome. Step 2 is to take care of the design on the inside, and instead of using an applique, we're going to be using a steel. So I'm just going to switch from applique to steel, And for the width, I think we're gonna do maybe a 2.5 millimeters, and we'll stick with the same line tool. I find it that it works really well for these types of geometrical designs. Let's go 1/3, and I'm just going to start here at the top, and with my widget tool selected, I can click and drag to create that shape. But I'm just gonna undo for now. Let's change the color to, let's see, a purple. I think a purple is pretty good. So I'm going to click and drag to the center. Next, let's do this one right here. Click and drag to the center. Let's take care of this one. Click and drag to the center. I'm not really too worried about my branching yet. Because we're going to be utilizing the automatic branching to take care of all of this. So we can just create all of these shapes first. Now I'm going to go from the top, go all the way to the bottom like so. And then let's create this one right here on the right. Again, because I have my snap to anchors enabled, this whole shape right here was created as one. And if I don't like it, I can just undo and create it again. Much better. Awesome. Now, when you go under your sequence, which is to the right, again, under your properties, you can see we created the new shape, which is the violet. I'm going to select it all. And under the close shape, you can see there is automatic branching. So we're going to click that. And this whole design has now been automatically branched. So we don't really have to worry about pathing all of it. I'm going to select the design once again, and under my properties, we are going to change a couple of settings. So the first thing is the corner type, and that is this right here. I am going to change it to round so that it looks a little bit better, but if you want, you can also change it to bevel. It's really up to you, the kind of corner that you want to do. We can probably leave it at bevel. Now, under miter distance, we are going to change the start line cap to rounded. You can see all of these become a little bit rounded, and the stop line cap to rounded as well, just to give it more of those rounded edges as opposed to just sharp edges on the design. And you know what, just going back to the corner type, I am going to stick with round to give it that extra, I guess, sharpness to this triangle right here. The last thing that we have to do to this shape is go under our path edit. We are going to change our stop to this shape right here, and we're going to change our start to this shape right here. Perfect. That's it. Let's create the rest, but instead of doing each one of them manually, we're just going to copy and paste the one that we already created. So we're going to go here, we're going to click copy, and then we're going to click paste. Now I'm just going to rotate this to make it so it's very close to the other one. I'm just trying to replicate that same shape. Something like that is pretty good. All right. Perfect. I think that is good. Same thing, we're going to copy and paste. And we're going to bring this one over here. Perfect. That looks good. I'm just trying to align it as best as possible, but I'm also going to bring these down just a little bit closer to each other. Something like that. Perfect. Next, I'm going to select the one that I just copied, and I'm going to copy and paste. And I'm going to rotate once again. Rotating to the bottom. Perfect. That looks awesome. I think that's pretty close. I like it. And next, let's do the same thing. Copy and paste. We're going to go to the next one. Just go somewhere around here. And we're going to just leave it there. Awesome. The last one, copy and paste. And we can finish up this whole shape right here. Just try to align it as best as I can to this part right here. Awesome. And if it's a little bit off, that's okay. I think I like it like that. All right, we have one more thing to do, and that is the circle. So we're gonna switch from our line shape to a circle. And for this, we can just click and drag to create a circle like so. Nice. And for the circle, I'm just going to click on the path edit so that I can start and stop in that same place. And I think I am going to make this circle a little bit bigger. So under my properties, I'll probably go to 3.6. Yeah, let's just make it a little bit more dense, a little bit wider. I think something like that looks pretty good. Feel free to play around with your own shapes and everything. And that's pretty much it. So now we have the whole shape done. The next step is gonna be to duplicate this placement stitch, because this first placement is only for the top fabric. We have to take care of the bottom fabric. So all we have to do is grab the first and the second one, which is the green and the blue, and I'm going to click copy and paste, and it'll just duplicate itself. And we have to do this one more time because we need that satin outline. So I'm going to click copy, I'm going to click paste, and for this, I'm going to change the colors. So let's just go again, do a purple, and we're gonna do color 2 for purple. Now with this third one selected, so currently we have 3 appliques. We have the first one that we created, which is this tack down and the placement stitch. We then have the shape that we just created. Next, we have the second tack down and placement stitch. And last, we have this one, which we copied and pasted. But for this one, we're going to change some settings. Let's go under our properties. And under our properties, we are going to enable sew border. And we're also going to enable sew zigzag underlay. But we are going to disable sew tack down and sew placement because we do not need those. All right. So you can see it switched to green, but we don't want it to be green. So let's change that to the same violet that we used. And I think that's 54. So I'm going to set that to 54. And now our design is done. Let's take a look at it very quickly by opening our view slow redraw. And you can see it's going to do the placement stitch, then the tack down stitch. Then it's going to create our design. Awesome. Then this is where we're going to add our second fabric underneath the hoop. And then lastly, we're going to add the satin border and we're good to go. So now that we have this design ready, I'm going to export it as a DST for my embroidery machine. Remember that the software is available in the link in the description if you guys want to create your own shape like this and much more. Let's now hop on to the embroidery tutorial. To create this design, we're going to need the following materials. I'm using a 5x5 inch mighty hoop, but you can also use a regular hoop. We're gonna use some wash away stabilizer. This is to get clean edges on the satin stitches. We're going to use some fabric and applique scissors. For our fabrics, we're going to use some regular felt. Here I have a couple that have already been cut out that fit on my hoop. We're gonna use some painter's tape to hold the felt, and we're gonna use a ribbon. This is just a red ribbon that we're going to place on the back so we can hang our decoration. So with these materials ready, we can get started on the embroidery. The first step is to prepare our hoop. So I'm going to open up the hoop and I'm going to grab my wash away stabilizer and cut a piece that fits the hoop. So I'm using my fabric scissors just to cut the stabilizer, and I'm going to hoop the stabilizer on its own, just like that. You can pull it around slightly just to make it taut. It should feel like a nice drum all around, and make sure that it has no creases on the back or anywhere around the embroidery area. Next, I'm going to grab my piece of felt and I'm going to place it on top, and utilizing the painter's tape, I'm just going to tape it from the top like so, just so that it holds and it doesn't go anywhere, as well as the bottom. Again, make sure that it's taut, make sure that it's not creased in the center, and your hoop should look something like this. Now that it's ready, let's take it onto the embroidery machine. Before we place our hoop in the machine, let's import the design file. I already exported it to my USB, and I'm gonna open it on the machine. So I'm going to click USB and select the snowflake, which is this one right here, currently at 7,000 stitches. I'm going to select no to delete fine stitches, and remember the first and second one are currently the placement and tack down. So I think I'm just gonna put them the same color as the felt, which is white. So let's do number 3 and number 3. Perfect. Then it's going to do the whole snowflake design on the inside. So for me, I wanted it to be purple. I'm gonna set that to 8 because that is purple for me. Then I am gonna add a stop after this because the next two are going to be the placement stitches and tack down stitches for the back of the design. And again, we're just going to set it to 3 because that's white. And after it's done the placement and tack down, I'm going to add one more stop so that we can take out the hoop, cut the excess with our appliques, and the last thing is going to be the satin border, which is going to be again purple or number 8. Tubular 1, perfect. That is fine. I'm going to leave it at that, and now we can put our hoop in. Now, one tip when putting in your hoops is to remember which side is up. So for me, I have the EL logo right here, so I know that this side goes down. You don't want to mess up your design by putting it upside down, so this just helps out a lot. Next, I'm just gonna click set so that I can do the tracing and ensure that it's going to be fitting within inside the fabric. That's perfect. So that's ready. We can press start and it's going to do the tack down and the placement stitch. All right, the inside design is done, so let's take it out of the hoop and let's add the back. This part is very simple. All we have to do is flip the hoop on the back and we're going to tape the felt exactly how we did on the front. But before we do that, I am going to cut a little piece of ribbon. This is up to you depending on how long you want the ribbon to be. For me, about this size is pretty nice. And what I'm gonna do is tape it to the top so it doesn't touch. So for example, right here, I'm just gonna have the ribbon, grab a little bit of tape, make sure that both ends of the ribbon are on the inside of the stitch, and you can tape it to the top like so, out of the way. Now I'm going to grab my other felt and just put it somewhere there. Perfect. And I can tape both sides. Let's bring this back onto the embroidery machine on the right side. And remember where the bottom is, so for me it's right here. Don't forget to put the design right side up. All right, it's going to do the next placement. Awesome, as the tack down. All right, now before we do the last part, let's take it out from the hoop one more time. And for me, this is now my favorite part because we get to cut around these stitches right here. So this is where you want to grab your good applique scissors. We're gonna get rid of all this extra tape that we added, and we're gonna carefully start cutting around the edge of the felt. So start slowly. Remember to be patient. Cut as close as possible, but don't cut too much. Just cutting around. I'm lifting the fabric as I cut. If you are using regular fabric scissors, it just makes it a little bit harder to go underneath that fabric and have a really clean trim like that. We're just slowly going through each part, and thanks to this simple outline, we don't really have to get too complicated with our cutting. Most of it is very straight. We're done on this side. So next, let's turn it around. Let's get rid of these two sides that I just taped. You can see that's where the placement and the tack down went. I've been really enjoying cutting the outlines. I feel like the more I practice, the better I get, the more accurate and faster, all at the same time. And it's also very therapeutic to see these outlines get cut so clean. Remember, I didn't cut the ribbon. I cut on top. So only the fabric itself, not the ribbon. Be very careful not to cut the ribbon when you're cutting around your excess fabric, because then you won't have a ribbon and it's gonna be a little harder to hang this on your Christmas tree. So this is the back side. I'm going to leave the ribbon taped up so that it doesn't get in the way when it's stitching out the satin. And this is the front. We'll clean up any of the excess threads later, but let's go take care of that satin finish. Again, remember that when you're putting your hoop in, make sure it's right side up. I can see the little ribbon there, so I know I'm good, as well as this part. And we're just gonna hit start to do the last part. Now this is what makes it look really good, which is the satin outline. Let's take it out of the hoop. Now let's turn it around, get rid of this tape right here. We no longer need it. And look at that. The ribbon is stitched out beautifully. We can take the snowflake out of the hoop. Looks something like this. And now very carefully with your fabric scissors, we're going to trim all this excess wash away. So again, be very careful not to cut your ribbon because you want to be able to hang this snowflake. So I'm just cutting very carefully. I'm not even really slicing. The scissors are doing it on their own. Look at how easy that cuts. It's just gliding around, just trying to trim all this excess stabilizer. And this is what it looks like. But as you can see, we have a couple of edges around, and that is because of the wash away stabilizer. So one of the last things that we have to do is to go rinse out all these ends with some warm water. But before we do that, I'm just going to trim all these extra little stitches right here to give it that ultimate clean look to this snowflake. Now the reason why these threads happen is because the start and stop weren't right beside each other of the neck shape. But that's okay because it's super simple to clean up, and that's something that could be easily fixed on the Design Doodler. Again, make sure to click the link in the description so you guys can create your own designs like this. I'm gonna go rinse this out and I'll be right back. After a little bit of washing and drying, all the edges are so clean. Look at how beautiful that looks. And this is the back. There is no snowflake on the back, and it gives that extra stability. Now the snowflake is ready to be added onto the Christmas tree, so let's go add it on top. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching this tutorial. Remember that the Design Doodler link is in the description, as well as if you want to join the Facebook group to download this image, you can do so on the description as well. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. We hope you have a beautiful Christmas holiday from yours truly, the Legacy family. Watch these videos next, and catch you guys on the next one.